I'd like to call a vote on approving the meeting agenda. Everyone in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No. Okay, first and only action item, approval of design services task order, Oakdale, Lindenwood, and West Ash Water Main Replacement Design.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. My name is Amulya Podel, Program Manager with Capital Programs Group. I'm here this morning to seek your approval on the design task order for Oakdale, Lindenwood, and West Ash Pipe Replacement Project, design and bid phase services to J2 engineers. So currently Loudon Water, we own and operate approximately 1,500 miles of water pipe in our system. Overall, the average age of our water pipe is about 29 years. When you compare it with a utility of our size, we are relatively a young utility in that way. But then certain pockets of our service area, specifically in Sterling area, the pipes there are now old and are at a point where they are in need of repair, rehab, and replacement. Another piece of data there, approximately 70 miles of our water pipes are cast iron. So cast iron, they're known to be more brittle and exhibit more corrosion and breaks as they approach the design life. So we know this cast iron, we stopped using cast iron around early 80s. So these are at a point where they need to be replaced. Our goal is to replace all of this 70 mile of cast iron pipe over the next 10, 15 years. Now that's a lot of pipe to replace. So our asset management team, they've done a great job of what they've done is they've taken into consideration several parameters to include pipe material, pipe age, local site condition, corrosion potential locally, the break history that we've seen, and they've looked at the likelihood and consequences of a failure. And putting all these parameters into matrix, they've developed a schedule. They've laid out like a priority schedule. And on the capital program side, we will, over these next 10, 15 years, we will be taking on design and construction of replacing these water mains. The exhibit on the right is, it's a color-coded version of that priority schedule. So over the next several years, we will be bringing in front of you projects that will replace these water mains. Most of them will be in Sterling area. So just wanted to give you a little bit of background on the overall R&R before I dive into the detail of this specific project. Any question? If not, I'll be talking more about the specific project today. So the project for your consideration today is, again, central system in Sterling area. It is in two different areas, Countryside and Sterling Park. Dialing deeper into the project location, we're talking about approximately 3,000 linear feet of pipe replacement. It's in Oakdale Court and Lindenwood here on the left, and West Ash and North Ash Road in Sterling Park. Overall, the goal is to replace about 3,000 linear feet of pipe. This will impact about 77 service lines and several fire hydrants and valves. The reason we prioritize this particular project early is there's known extensive corrosion in this pipe and a much higher concentration of break in the last 5-10 years. So for this project, we have selected J2 engineers as design consultant. J2 engineers, they're one of our civil basic ordering agreement consultants. They've done projects like this for us before, several, and they're also pretty well regarded to do a water main project like this on the private side. In this project, J2 engineers' scope can broadly be categorized into project management, design services, permitting, and bid phase services. A lot of survey, geotechnical investigation, utility locating is needed on this project. We do anticipate significant coordination with VDOT, just because of the impact this project would have on the local traffic and the residents. So next slide here I have is a high-level fee breakdown for the task. Just so you know, this here is a high-level breakdown of the fee. The template that we actually use to negotiate fee with them goes into much granular detail, right? So, and as you can see, two of the tasks here, geotechnical investigation and utility locating, that will be done by a sub-consultant. And just as a data point for you, we estimate like a project like this in a setting like this, our planning estimate for cost is about $2 to $3 million per mile of the pipe. So that's the, so yeah. Any questions on the fee or scope or?
Yes, I do have a question. And if I missed it, what kind of pipe were you planning to replace the cast iron with?
Ductile iron. That's our standard
We're gonna go to
pipe
ductile iron.
material.
Okay, great. That's what I thought. And then this fee breakdown is an estimate of the hourly billing.
Yes.
Yes.
So yeah, the way we kind of build it from the bottom. We identify each and every task, subtask,
Right.
and then look at what labor category is needed for every task and subtask.
Right.
And there is some negotiation, and that's how we
Good.
were able to agree with this fee.
Clearly, there's a lot of field work.
Oh, there is a lot of field work on this project.
Not related to this exactly, but do we have any asbestos cement pipe in the system?
Not in the water system that I know of. Yes, we do have that on the sewer side, but no asbestos pipe in our drinking water, potable water system. Project schedule. It is relatively a small project, but we are being a little bit conservative with our estimate on the design, just because of the time it may take for VDOT coordination primarily. So we're estimating 16 to 18 months for design, 3 to 4 months for bid, and construction 18 months, which includes about 5 to 6 months for material. We're still seeing 5-6 month lead time on these smaller 8, 10, 12-inch ductile iron pipes, and that's built into this schedule here.
Yes, Amelia, just want to understand the overall prioritization schedule. Is that something you're at liberty to provide, give us today, or is just trying to, because I see the current one you mentioned, but what about the overall prioritization, how all the projects are breaking up?
I might field that one.
Okay.
I think a great thing for us to consider would be, we've been giving really annual updates on the asset management program. Typically the finance committee meeting in August. I think that could be a great topic that we could bring back.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Kind of lay out the
Yeah.
entire schedule. At a very high level, we have it built into the CIP sheet that covers this
Okay,
particular program.
Yeah.
But I think it would be great for us to come back and
Okay.
give you guys a little bit more of a showcase of what went into that prioritization schedule.
okay, that'd be great. Thanks.
Could you expand a little bit on the VDOT difficulties? I mean, this is a secondary street. It doesn't carry a whole lot of traffic, and I just don't see why the design timeline is as long as the construction timeline.
I think it is primarily because we haven't done a lot of this. So we deal with Leesburg Permit Office, and I know VDOT's standard right now is they do not want utilities excavate in the road to the extent practicable. This is a situation where we are not putting a new pipeline. This is rehab. So that's why I'm saying we are being a little bit conservative with some of these other conversations we've had with VDOT on other projects. This one should go relatively smooth because there is no other way to do this thing, right? This work has to be done. So like I said, I mean, we're hoping, and I'm pretty sure as we do more of this project and we build that relationship with VDOT on how these projects review gets streamlined and permitted, things definitely should shorten than this one. I mean, and this one, like I said, I think we should be able to do this in the next 12 months, just being a little bit conservative with our estimate at this point. So here's a CIP snapshot of the project. We are tracking this project as Water 180 in our CIP plan, and currently have a budget of $2.67 million built into it. And this is my last slide before the motion. So if you have any questions.
Is it possible or necessary to meld this project as you open up the streets, you can see the services. Is this going to be helpful with the lead service situation? To tell what you're uncovering?
Yes, so we are in the design. There is another project which we did not have to, just because of the design fee, we did not have to bring it here. But and we'll probably do it the same thing, is there will be notes on the construction plans that will require the contractor to notify our asset management if they find lead pipe. Yeah, I think this particular street, asset management has already looked into it. I don't think we have lead pipe in these 77 service lines here on this project.
But you will be coordinating.
Yes, we will. There are notes that these are kind of newer notes that we've developed on the plans, and we will be coordinating that with asset management.
So I have a question, Mr. Chair. So the design fee is 126, so roughly 5% of the total 10-year CIP. So we're expecting to do just one more project like this if we assume that 10% is the normal design to construction ratio.
This is the allocated budget for this project only, so that doesn't include all 70
Okay.
pipes, yes.
I'm just reading the 10-year CIP.
Yes,
But you-
it's just for this water 180.
Could you anticipate the future ones would likely be less? Lessons learned and.
Yeah,
I think-
we there is another project that we are planning to bring forward probably in the last quarter of the year. It'll be much bigger, probably like 5-6 times bigger than this. And as you will see, there will be some economy of scale realized in terms of design fee, some lessons learned. So yeah, the fee, I don't expect it to be proportional to what we see on this smaller project here.
And Mr. Vega, to address your question, what we've been doing in the CIP for these large R&R programs is carrying a 10-year budget for the overall program. And when we identify and break out the individual projects, they become individual standalone. You're
I think the
welcome.
goal, and we can talk more about this in the late summer, but the goal is to try and replace up to 5 miles of pipe a year, since we've got about 75 miles of pipe a year. Since we have about 70 miles of cast iron pipe, it's going to take us 10 to 15 years to get that done.
So with that, I have the motion in front of you.
Who wants to do it?
Any other questions?
Thank you.
I can make the motion. I move the recommendation to the board to approve award of a design task order for the Oakdale, Lindenwood, and West Ash pipe replacement project to J2 Engineers Incorporated for an estimated cost of $126,600 with an approximate 5% contingency to be controlled by the general manager for a total authorized budget of $133,000. Additional costs will require board approval, and I'm recommending this go to the consent agenda for the board. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Nobody opposed? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Third, consent or action?
No, consent.
Consent. I don't think she heard you. Yeah, I did that.
Okay, the next item is an informational item, joint county partnership projects.
Good morning, Mr.
One
Chairman.
thing is Terry on?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Andrew Beattie. I'm a manager of planning initiatives here at Light and Water, and Amulia and I will present this informational item on joint county partnership projects. So just a little bit of background, as you may already know, we do have a partnership program with Loudoun County called the Water and Wastewater Program. And that was initiated really through the execution of our MOU back in June of 2015. So almost 9 years ago to the day, actually. And that MOU really, the goal of the program is to have an avenue for residents within the county and communities to come together who are experiencing issues with their water or wastewater systems, their individual systems generally. It's a place for them to come and apply for assistance to the county. And so that's the goal of the program. And what the MOU does, it really lays out the roles and responsibilities between county staff and Loudon Water staff. So, for example, county staff, leads the application period, the outreach, and sort of manages the program, whereas Loudon Water's role is more on the technical side of things, where we would take the lead on conducting the feasibility studies for these communities whenever they apply. And should a project move forward, Loudon Water would take on the design and construction and ultimately the operation and maintenance of new community systems, if that is the solution. The other thing I'll note about this program is that the work that we conduct, both the internal staff work and our consultants, we do get reimbursed by the county for the work through this program. So most of the projects that we're going to talk about today are projects that have come through or will be coming through this program, but there is one of the projects which is just outside of this program, but we work very closely with the county on that project. So just to give your bearings here a little bit, the red dots shown on the map on the right are the general locations of the 5 projects that we'll be talking about. The one project I mentioned that is just outside of the water and wastewater program is the one in the suburban policy area, just there at the intersection of Route 7 and Route 28. That is the Broad Run Farms waterline extension. And Amelia will be talking about that. But the other 4 projects are all in the rural policy area, where communities have been experiencing water and/or wastewater concerns.
Question,
Yeah.
I noticed in the news that Waterford's starting an archaeological project. I think that's what I saw. Does that have anything to do with water system? Does
No,
it affect the water system?
Not directly. That's being undertaken by DTCI for a larger landmark project that they have going on to look at traffic calming and stormwater issues and that type of thing.
So it has no,
Not directly, no.
not doing it.
So I'll first talk about the projects in Unison and St. Louis. So Unison, it was a small community of about 34 homes, and they applied to the program back in 2020, and Loudon Water scoped and brought that to the board and completed that feasibility study in 2023. The goal was to look at both water and wastewater concerns that they were experiencing. The recommendation coming out of that study was for a new community water system and a new wastewater community system. In terms of the current status, we presented, along with the final report, we presented to the community the recommendations, and we've had follow-up questions and answers with the community. And the community itself, there's a little bit of differing opinions on what they believe the path forward should be. So Loudon County staff is still working with the volunteer coordinators within that community, trying to set up community meetings so that can sort of foster that discussion and help them decide on the direction they would like to go. So as of now, we're obviously available to assist in that conversation if and when we're needed to, but we will be waiting to hear from them on how they would like to proceed.
Excuse me, Andrew.
Yes.
Not familiar with the study. Can you elaborate a little bit on what some of their concerns were?
They it's a community where there's some very small lots, and they have issues with their well yield and don't have the space to necessarily drill new wells on their property just due to setback requirements. And then there's also concerns with the failing septic systems and their drain fields. Again, a theme in a lot of these communities, they're older historical communities that just don't have the space really to solve the problems for themselves within their own lot. So they need to look for other solutions.
Thank you.
In terms of St. Louis, as you're aware, we do have a presence there. Currently, we own and operate an existing wastewater treatment plant within the village. But the county, and to be clear, this is County Loudon Water, wasn't involved in this. The county initiated the development of a village plan back in 2022, and just now that is coming. Will be being brought forward back to the Planning Commission and the Board of Supervisors. But the draft village plan does highlight that there are water concerns within the village, and so we are expecting an application from the residents of St. Louis to initiate a feasibility study to help address that concern.
Andrew, when you say water concerns, is that just quantity, quality?
It
Both?
it was it's a little bit of both, but I think primarily quantity. If you recall, there was fear from a potential development within the village that we're going to put in new homes and drill new wells, and so there was a fear that would deplete the aquifer, yeah, and present issues for the neighboring properties. So that was kind of the spur of this. But yeah,
This discussion has been going on at the Board of Supervisors. First I heard of it was in 2014. So this has been going on quite some time. And the community has concerns about the disruption of putting in a system too. So,
yes, yeah.
So there needs to be a lot of community involvement. So.
There is, and county staff does a great job of trying to engage with the community and educate and do that outreach and try to listen, understand, and address those concerns that community members have. So the goal, whenever an application is received from the community for this feasibility study, will be to assess options to address those water concerns.
It's also my understanding that the funding for any of these projects will be borne by the county.
That is correct, yes. And so with that, I'll turn it over to Amelia.
Thank you, Andrew. So I will be going over 3 projects. Like Andrew said, Broad Run Farm Waterline Project. This is in Central System. And then I'll also be talking about Waterford and Peonian Springs project. Broad Run Farm Water Extension Project. Again, this project has been going on for a while. This abandoned landfill, Hidden Lane landfill, in 2017 or 18, EPA designated this abandoned landfill as a Superfund site. And as part of their remediation project, EPA decided to extend public water mains to this area where EPA determined their groundwater wells to be contaminated because of this abandoned landfill. And this the area in green shade here represents a portion of the community where EPA will extend the public water mains and connect all homes there into the public water system. After EPA decided that, the county decided to extend public water main to the remainder of the community, which is the pink shade to the left, and Loudon Water is managing the county portion of the project. And I'll be talking more about the county portion of the project that we're jointly managing with the county. This project, the Broad Run Farms project that Loudon Water is managing, it includes approximately 22,000 linear feet of pipe, 8-inch to 12-inch. On the county portion of the project, there are 311 lots. Combined with EPA project, there are 453 lots in Broad Run Farms community. We anticipate the construction cost to be in the range of about $10 million. The current status of the project is the county portion of the project design is complete. The permits have been secured, but as you see here, the county project needs to connect to the water main installed by EPA at 5 different locations. So we need EPA project to be built for the county project to be fully functional. And also that the county decided to wait until we have some solid dates on construction from EPA. So we've kind of been putting this project on hold. But the good news is we've recently heard from EPA. Now the project is funded. They actually have the project out in the street for RFP. They're getting proposals, and based on the recent information that we got from EPA, we anticipate advertising this project sometimes around October of this year, and which will put us being able to issue notice to proceed in the first quarter of next year. And we just, because of the size of this project, we anticipate the design construction to be 18 to 20 months, again, which includes about 5 months of material lead time for this ductile iron pipe. Any question on Broad Run Farms?
I'm only curious if that countryside segment to the east is one of those that has a cast iron pipe.
Entirely.
So I want to be clear, on the last project, that countryside specifically, that one actually is not cast iron. So that one actually is a ductile iron pipe, but for some reason, maybe the batch of material, it just exhibited a very high concentration of bricks. The other one in Sterling Park is cast iron, but countryside is more driven not by material, but our what we've seen maintenance-wise, too many bricks in that. Even though it's a ductile iron pipe, relatively new, but we just too many brick history on that in that section there.
Installed by the lowest bidder.
On a more serious note, are there best practices that we can borrow from pipeline improvement projects in other areas that are affected by Superfund sites? I would imagine there's a lot of risk with excavation and.
You know what? So when just going back to the scope, right? The area that we are managing, EPA, based on the field testing, they determine like this area, there is no contamination, nothing on the landfill impacts corrosion potential or anything on the site. So they put it outside of the impact zone. So and that's why we did not take into consideration any impact this because that's EPA's field testing determination. So they think any impact based on the pollutant coming from landfill is limited to that green. And right now they're already working on remediation. If you go out there now, it's like a huge 30 feet deep hole they're excavating and hauling that material to, I believe, Roanoke. So that work is already underway, the remediation work. Next here I have is Waterford, and a couple of different things happening in Waterford. There are 3 major projects underway in Waterford going on. The first one is Loudon Waters project that you all have seen before. We have wastewater community system, existing community system in Waterford. We are in the process of upgrading that plant. Now that is Loudon Waters project. The county is not directly involved on that project. The second project in Waterford is community water system. I'll be talking a little bit more about this one in the later slide. So this project, this is county's initiative managed by Department of General Services. And like Andrew said, we are assisting the county as per the understanding that we have with the county's water wastewater program. And the third project in Waterford is a larger infrastructure improvement project. Sometimes it's also referred to as landmark project. So this is a much larger infrastructure project, which is looking into improving the drainage, traffic calming, sidewalks, bearing the overhead electric and stuff like that. This is county's project. Department of Transportation and Critical Infrastructure is managing the project. The only way we are involved is because of the schedule, the way it lined up. DTCI project will be designing and constructing the water distribution mains. That's the plan at this point because of the way the schedules have played out. And we talk to DTCI more through Department of General Services. So we are not directly involved, but in some ways we are involved with that project. Yeah, inspecting definitely, because it'll ultimately be our asset, but in terms of like selecting consultant that designs and stuff like that, we won't have involvement on that
See how
side.
we do it.
We'll also it'll also have to go through our land development process for review and approval.
Sorry, I couldn't hear you.
It'll also have to go through the land development process for
Oh, yes,
review and approval,
yes.
right?
Oh, yeah.
So this slide here is specific to water system in Waterford. Um, Waterford, they have known well yield issues, more on the quantity side here in Waterford. So the county initiated a study to evaluate for a water feasibility study in the community. And the study was completed in 2022. The current wastewater service area that we have, it has 145 lots within that study boundary, and we're looking at that same service area for water extension project too. The study that was completed in 2022 recommended that a public community system be extended to the community. Very high level design cost estimate, $1.5 million. Construction cost estimate in 2024 dollars is in the range of $10 to $17 million. The next project, not very far from Waterford, Peonian Springs. Now, in Peonian Springs, there is no community water system, neither community water system nor wastewater system. However, the community is facing challenges when it comes to on the water side. The challenge is actually both on the quality and quantity in this community. And then on the wastewater side, a lot of like small narrow lots, and there are challenges with non-compliant waste disposal system. So taking that into consideration, the county initiated a study which was completed, and Loudon Water with Dewberry completed that study for the county. It was wrapped up in 2019, and there were a couple other supplemental tech memos that were completed over the next couple years and completed in 2022. In Peonian Springs, after several iterations, the boundary that we settled with the study, there are 201 lots within that boundary we're currently looking at. It's a bigger project in Peonian Springs. The design fee is in the range of $3.5 million, and construction cost estimate $34 to $56 million. And again, these are 2024 dollars, not escalated to midpoint of construction.
And who would be paying that?
County. And the county is hoping federal government, so.
And federal, yeah.
Is there anything special about that odd looking hook up to the top of the
Just
illustration? Are those different lots or
just lots.
just odd shaped lots? That's it?
Yeah, that was so as part of the program, it's really the community comes together and almost self-defines the boundary. This was one of the earlier projects that came through the water and wastewater program, and the program has since been refined a little bit so that there's a little bit more input from county staff. Yeah, yeah.
So before I talk about this slide, the two other slides that I talked about, Waterford and Peonian Springs, when we initiated, actually at the time of completion of those studies, we were looking at these two communities separately with local solutions at each community. However, the way the study came together at around the same time, there were some additional, so I'll talk about that on this slide here. In April 2022, the Board of Supervisors approved $3.5 million of federal funds, ARPA, for the design phase of Peonian Springs water and wastewater work. And of that $3 million, the county transferred to Loudon Water. Last year in February, the Board of Supervisors approved $1.5 million for the design of water system in Waterford. And with this, in this February meeting, the Board of Supervisors directed the county staff to look at the feasibility, similar needs in the two communities, not that very far away, about 2.5 miles. So they directed the staff to look at the feasibility of coming up with one system that can serve both communities. So what that means is evaluating the feasibility of taking Peonian Springs sewage along Clark's Gap Road to the existing treatment plant in Waterford for the wastewater component of it, and for water to evaluate if it was feasible to locate wells between the two communities here, and then have one treatment plant that can serve both Waterford and Union Springs. So after Board of Supervisor direction here, next here is we looked at how do we move forward with this project. And this is how we planned the work. Just the size, the nature of the project, and the duration of design, it had to be divided into multiple task orders. I don't want to go through all the list, but the committee has seen one of the task orders before. Couple of smaller ones, aerial survey and stuff, those were completed last year. Those have already been completed. Joint system feasibility study, it's pretty much complete. We expect it to be finalized, and the county staff expect to submit it to the board in the next couple of months. And then there will be a few task orders that we will be bringing in front for your consideration. I know one in June, and the other one we're targeting August CIP. So you will see more of these task orders come to you for consideration in the future meetings. We selected Dewberry Engineers to provide design phase consulting services for the overall program here, both Waterford and Peonian Springs.
Are there any other communities in close proximity that have the potential to join this?
Not at this time.
Nothing?
Yeah, it's limited to just Waterford and Peonian Springs. Which, I mean, we have to go through commission permit and all that. There may be some tweaks based on the permitting process, but the intent at this time is just those two communities.
Amelia, is it fair to say the ongoing work on the joint system feasibility study and the groundwater investigation work, you had mentioned there's a forthcoming bringing this all back to the Board of Supervisors. There's a juncture at that point at which really a final endorsement of the joint system approach will be made.
Right, yeah. So that's how the county staff are looking at is once we wrap up this joint system feasibility study, then they'll go to the Board of Supervisor with the findings, and from there will come direction on how to move forward. So that's the plan at this point, which we anticipate to happen in the next couple of months.
Can you go back one slide? Yes, so there was something that sticks in my mind. There was some sites that potentially were identified along the green line between the two for the wells and the treatment plant. Has it firmed up at all?
Not for the treatment plan. So what, and I actually will be talking about that in the next
Okay,
slide,
well,
but I can
let's
talk
let you
right
go.
now.
Yeah,
So,
okay.
so groundwater study, it is carried out in 6 different phases. The first phase is desktop study. You know what, actually with the exhibit, it's easier. So I'll talk about it in the next
Go.
slide.
Thank you. Yeah, that's a better slide.
So the overall project schedule, the goal is to be done with the design and permitting by the end of December 2026. Like I said, the Peonian Springs component of the project has received federal funding, and the one of ARPA funding's requirement is the design. The money needs to be spent by December 2026, and which I think worked perfectly with where the project was when we started this project. So the construction funding has not yet been secured. Assuming it is secured by the time design and permitting is completed in 2026 December, we expect 33 to 36 months for duration of construction for these projects. So this here is where I was planning on talking about that groundwater. Brownfields. So groundwater, it's carried out in 6 kind of distinct phases. As part of first phase, this here, our groundwater consultant, EGGI, they kind of cast a wide net. So they did a desktop analysis of this wide 2,000 feet each side of Clark's Gap Road corridor. And out of that desktop study came certain patches of parcels, which they concluded has a potential for higher yield. There were about like 55 parcels. And then after public outreach coordination with the property owners, we were able to get authorization from 14, 15 property owners to carry out geophysical survey. And in February, EGGI staff, they went out to the site, did this is non-invasive geophysical survey. So they carried out geophysical survey in those 15, 16 parcels. And out of that field investigation, they've identified 8, 9 test well locations, which spreads out over that Clark's Gap Road corridor. So the next task is, and the county will take the lead, this memorandum of understanding, the county will take the lead on public outreach, property owner coordination, and that's an ongoing discussion right now. We're talking to county on approaching property owners because the next work is taking the rig and actually doing the test wells, which is more invasive, more coordination with the property owners, and that's ongoing discussions with the county. So some of the work that we're involved at this moment is we're working towards finalizing the joint system feasibility study. Like I said, groundwater test wells have been identified. The next is to coordinate with the property owners. Our consultant Dewberry is preparing preliminary alignments along Clark's Gap Road. I mean, it's a long segment of pipeline along that corridor. And then Loudon Water, we have our wastewater treatment plant upgrade project in Waterford. The intent is to take sewage from Paonian Springs to Waterford. So there is this coordination going on between Paonian Springs design team and Loudon Water's design build team on what can be done to help these projects, right? So these are some of the ongoing activities on this project. And this is my last slide, so yep, happy to take any.
That was a very good slide. I like that.
Thank you.
So the one question I have is occasionally I get questions from the community about what's going on with this project. Should we direct them to DTCI, or is there someone, like Mark should send them to Mark?
I would say if it is specific, like in Waterford within the community, I think that should definitely go to DTCI, because right now all of our work that would ultimately benefit Waterford is occurring south of the village along Clark's Gap. We're not doing, and this was discussed with the county, since DTCI would be doing the distribution system, the scope has been kind of handed over to DTCI. So I would say if the question is from within the village, DTCI is probably more appropriate entity to address it.
The county staff, the county public affairs office, they have been working on web pages to help present this information and be able to direct folks to have a contact number and everything. Yeah.
But I just have a couple things to add. I think at any point in time, you can send them our way and we can kind of determine if it's questions we can answer or to the county. And a couple of things that I just wanted to add that play such a significant role in this and why these projects are so challenging and they take a long time. The county's land use policies are a real sort of backbone to this. And the county made a determination in this case that was sort of unique. It hadn't been before to be able to connect these two villages with one system. And so that went through a determination process with the county. That determination was made. Part of the challenge there is that the line connecting them goes through properties that are not going to be allowed to connect. So there's a real significant commission permit process that will establish these service areas. And I think, I think Andrew mentioned it, that the communities themselves work together to determine and somewhat self-define who's involved in that. And the question was answered by Amelia around the funding of these projects. And in particular, I think the question had to do with Paonian, who's funding it? Well, really the county it's their process, it's their funding, but that doesn't mean that it's automatic. The county is funding this project. This also, there's a process, and I don't think the community went through this yet. There's a survey process where they may be eligible for funding from the county, but it also may be that the property owners themselves end up having to, the county may front it, but have to pay, whether it's a special tax district or some kind of way of funding that. So these questions continue to come up, and, you know, you try to keep the process going to give as much information, the technical information to say this is the best solution, but there are big questions yet to be answered. So that's why this process, you see some of the dates, how long this has been going on, but it'll continue to happen that way. But we just work really closely with the county to you know, do our role, they have their role, and you know, continue to move it forward.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll just add that as part of the water and wastewater program, the county does have a funding policy associated with that. And to Mark's point, there's, you know, a number of steps they'll go through. Obviously, first looking for grants and things like that to offset some of the cost.
Federal and state grants. Yep.
Mr. Allen has a question.
Thank you, Jewel. Since I live in a community that abuts this project, I do get a lot of questions about our involvement in the project. And I know you went through some of them. I was trying to write them down, but if you could do me a favor and just kind of reiterate what decisions are really Loudon Waters as opposed to the counties. I'm just trying to figure out what our design input is, what our responsibilities are, you know, what we're active in, what we're passive in. So I know it's painful, but if you could just sum up what we have direct, like, design control over, if you would, as opposed to the county.
So I think very broadly speaking, right, all technical decisions would be made by Loudon Water. That's our role on the project. Things that the county leads, obviously this is their program and we are partner with them. So they lead outreach efforts, they lead land acquisition, they lead the commission permitting process, right? So all the legislative processes, they would lead design related permits, right? With VDOT, that would be kind of under our purview, right? Because we're working through the design. Securing funding for the project, that is all the county's responsibility. So our role is really to support them in this effort and to be the design leaders. And then construction, obviously manage the construction on their behalf as well. Does that help?
Well, I'll offer another way of maybe saying some of the same things. And I think the Waterford Paonian project is a good example because it has so many aspects to it. But the first project that was mentioned is we have upgrades at our wastewater treatment plant in Waterford. Waterford for wastewater is already customers of ours. So clearly we're in the lead for that. Those questions would be to us. That's our project. For the projects that are the water and wastewater program projects, until these communities are actually established as our customers, you think of the county as the lead. And we're sort of that, you know, Mr. Allen, you mentioned the word passive, that one way of saying it. I think it's true. We have a role where we are a resource and we are doing the technical aspect, but the county is clearly in the lead of that. And we essentially make recommendations still at that point. So there's a changeover when a service area through a commission permit is established and they become our customers. Those roles kind of become switched. So with Paonian and Waterford on the drinking water side, they are not our customers yet. And so the county is really the lead. Now, you know, if it comes to the technical aspects, you know, those are questions that we certainly can answer. And then I think it's pretty clear on the landmark project, the other types of infrastructure, transportation, and all that's happening with Waterford, those are clearly outside of kind of our role, but there's a lot of coordination. That's how we get involved. So that's another way so maybe between the two answers, hopefully that's somewhat helpful.
No, that's really helpful. Is it fair to say that we are Loudon Water supporting this joint system? I mean, is that a fair statement, or are we agnostic at this point?
I would say that was, we're not agnostic. We actually were part of the conversation. You know, when you start to think about our type of infrastructure, economy of scale, having, sort of one treatment plant versus two. Those things are helpful from an economic, from an operational standpoint. So, we're definitely supportive of that. And we worked with the county to determine that seemed like the best route to go. But ultimately, because of, I would say it has a lot to do with the funding. I mean, ultimately, that is the county's decision at the end of the day.
Is it a fair statement to say that we're supportive until they become our customers? Is that a general statement, or is that not, doesn't cover it?
In other words, then at that point, we
In other
sort of
words, we're
take the lead.
supportive
And it's,
until they become our customers. Once they become our customers, then we take the lead.
Oh, and supportive
that
in
too
terms
general?
of with the county.
yeah,
What's that?
Yes,
the
yeah.
role, a role.
Yeah, our role. We're
Yeah.
supportive.
I'm
Again,
just wondering if that's too
Support
general
role
a
versus the
statement.
lead role. Yeah.
yeah, to echo Mark, we are making technical decisions, but at every step of the way, we're informing the county on such decisions, and they're ultimately signing off on it. I think a prime example is the multiple phases of the groundwater investigation. The corridor was identified. I think Amelia said a dozen or so properties were identified as we do the first phase. We're laying that out in front of our partners at General Services. Here's what we've come to in terms of properties identified, and they really endorse that next step of outreach, and they support the property owner coordination and interaction. And then, down the line, as the more invasive studies are done, we again would be informing our contacts at General Services of those intentions, and then they would help with those permissions. And then ultimately, when we go to acquire the property, the county will be signing off on those processes. So to Mr. Allen's point, I think we could certainly write up something that's a little more succinct that would help, this committee and the board understand, who's responsible for what.
Well, it sounds to me from what I'm hearing, and correct me if I'm wrong, that the county is leading this whole effort, and Loudon Water is almost like a design consultant at this point. Is that?
That's fair.
Technical.
Yep.
Okay.
Does that help you, Terry?
Yeah, it does. Thanks, Marty.
It helps me too, so thank you.
That was my last.
That's great, thank you.
Are there any other questions, or?
Just want to get whoever coordinates this, if it is done by Loudon Water at some point in time in the future, that you get a lot of those water stress. Stressy. Just
One
a
for each hand.
3-mile force main on a scenic highway.
Yeah.
in
Oh, yeah.
Western Loudon, it's not going to be easy.
Yeah.
I'm glad you guys are keeping it straight, at least.
There's some of that you want to stay out of, yes.
All right, if that's it, that's very good. Thank you.
That's very good.
I think I understand it, believe it or not. Tom Lipinski, Capital Spending Summary Report.
So we're getting close to the end of the meeting. So this is the capital spending through April. The projection that was put together at the beginning of the year was $30 million, and we've spent actuals about 27.3 million, around 91%. I don't know if there's any questions on that. If not, I have one more piece of data to share with you. So speaking of 91%, you were recently informed that the audit was complete for 2023. So congratulations to Sally and the rest of Loudon Water. So the books on 2023 were closed. So we can report that for the 2023 capital spending plan, the budget was 113 million, and we spent 103 million in 2023, or 91% of what the budget was. So that was a pretty successful year for us last year. So we're on track to do that again this year. Hopefully, as we get closer towards the end, we stay around that 90%.
Very good. Are there any questions?
We like it under the blue line.
Yes, that's the last item, if I'm not mistaken. We get a vote to adjourn?
And Mr. Sultan, I'd just like to mention again, as a reminder, the June meeting has a rather lengthy agenda.
Yeah,
So-
bring your lunch, bring
We were seeking, one of
bring
the
your
items.
luggage. It's gonna be a long time. How many
Bring some
items were there again? There were like 10 or 11?
Eight items total. But as a reminder, one of the items is going to be related to this groundwater investigations for the Waterford Paonian project. And a couple of the additional items are going to be related to Broad Run Phase 3, which we plan to cover at the board retreat. So we're attempting to, help inform on these items in advance due to the lengthy agenda.
So what you're saying is do your homework, read the packages before you arrive.
That
That'd
would
be
be helpful.
Yeah, I think there's probably in all the presentations, we've recently given some background. So Russell Branch is coming forward. We just brought you Russell Branch Design Amendment. And then the Brambleton 600 water booster pump station. So that's related to the Dulles South one that we just brought forward. I think it's been a few months now. But so I think there's some ties to previous presentations if you want to go back and look at those as well.
Okay. Do that.
Thank you.
All right, can I have
I make a motion that we adjourn this meeting.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We're adjourned.
Thank you.